Hi, welcome to City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. Mike, welcome.
Thank you, Walt.
Good to see you again. And Mike has brought a very special guest with him today, our new police chief, John Lilatcher. John?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Walt.
And Your Honor, if it's okay with you, before we get into a discussion of public safety issues here in Beverly, maybe I could spend a little time with John. And
Absolutely.
For our viewers who are not familiar with John yet, we can chat a little bit. And so, John, before we get into some of the details of what your department is working on and some of your new initiatives, how are you adjusting to the community? How are you adjusting to Beverly?
It's not hard to adjust to. It's such a beautiful area. Being on the North Shore again. I mean, I grew up in Lowell, Mass. Spent a lot of time in the summers in Salisbury with my family, and to come back to the North Shore after spending 32 years up in New Hampshire is just thrilling. Love it here.
There you go. Extra benefits of the job, right?
Absolutely.
Now, I have a little bio here, and you are from Lowell. You were born and raised in Lowell. And I guess you got your start in law enforcement, 81 to 83. You were a police officer in Hudson, New Hampshire?
Correct. I had actually gone to high school in Nashua at a parochial high school, Bishop Girton. And while attending there, I made a lot of friends up in the southern New Hampshire area. Well, while attending the University of Lowell, one of my friends called me, and I was working as a special officer at Lowell General Hospital in a criminal justice career. And they were looking for part-time reserve officers in Hudson. It was dispatch duties and reserve officer duties. So I started there part-time in 1981, and then in 1982 they offered me full-time position, which was tremendous because I was very young at the time, and to get on full-time when I was 20 years old was an incredible opportunity, so I took it. And then 2 years after that, 1984, I left Hudson and joined the state police, New Hampshire State Police. Yeah,
and according to this little bio here, you really had have quite a track record there. You were a trooper in 84, and then you moved on to sergeant in 99. Lieutenant in 2004 and captain in 2008. So how did you enjoy those years in the state police?
I really enjoyed it. I worked all over the state, all different assignments in a patrol function. While a trooper, I was a field training officer, so I brought up young troopers onto the job. I was a canine handler for 10 years. I had a patrol and narcotics dog. I was on the State Police Honor Guard after that, and I started the State Police. It was called a Special Events Force, a Special Events Unit, and we went to any large-scale events, disturbances, things like that, and commanded that towards the end of my career. But I had the opportunity. I led troopers in the field, and then I took over a troop, was a troop commander, basically running a police department. I had the 7th largest, say, police department in the state of New Hampshire at the time. And when I became a captain, I took over the entire southern tier of the state of New Hampshire, basically from Vermont border right to the Atlantic Ocean. And then I went into the support service division for a while, ran the administrative side of state police, went back into the field, and then this opportunity came up last year, and I jumped all over it.
Wow. Now, you mentioned the canine handler, narcotics and things. Any interesting experiences there? Tell us a little bit about how that
Well,
works.
There's a lot in 10 years, but when I had my patrol dog, New Hampshire was going through a budgetary issue, so we were down to 6 dogs in the entire state. Yeah. So for a period of time, we were very busy running all over the place. And then in 1990, I went through Boston's narcotics school, patrol narcotics school, and started doing drug searches with the dog, and got into another field, working traffic, working in the schools, working felony cases. So it was again, brought me all over the state, from the smallest towns to the largest cities.
Wow, sounds like what a comprehensive list of assignments and experience you bring with you. Now, you've been married about almost 30 years. It says wife, friend. So that would put it just about the time when you became a police officer full time. You got married, right? So, boy, you're trying to.
We got married in 1985. We'll have 30 years in February.
Yeah, congratulations. And you have one daughter?
One daughter. She'll be 25 in October. As parents, we're very happy. She just finished a master's degree at the University of New Hampshire. She got hired as a school guidance counselor. She'll be a guidance counselor at Somersworth High School. Just started this year, so we're thrilled that she's starting her career.
And she still lives at home?
No, she's up in Durham right now.
Oh, okay. Well, we have a little bit of commonality there, because I have one daughter, and she's 26. She'll be 26 this year. So now, it also says here, and I know you were being modest about it, but you were nominated for a couple of state police medals of Valor, and you won one. You want to tell us a little bit about the circumstances of that?
Both were shooting incidents. One was a hostage situation. The second one was an incident where a young man had broken into some houses, that also stole some drugs out of a house, was suicidal. We found out his location. He was actually on a little peninsula of an island. As we were trying to talk to him, he opened fire on us with a rifle. And I was able to get another trooper out of the line of fire, and we were able to end the situation peacefully, but it was a little bit hairy.
Well, congratulations. Now, with all of this effort and experience in law enforcement, what do you do in your spare time? Any hobbies, any things you like to do completely outside the realm of law enforcement?
The hockey playing is reduced over the years because of knees and age, but I still like to skate. The guys at the department are trying to get me to skate a little more. The same with softball. As we get older, we learn that those are the things we pass by. I try to golf, not as much as I'd like to. I think everybody says that until they really retire. And as the mayor and I have been talking, he finally got me into mountain biking, so we bought bikes, and we're riding a lot more now too. Well,
the mayor certainly was a star hockey player. I'm a star soccer player, so he knows what it's like to have to, you're a step slower after.
I'm not a step slower.
No. Well, very good. Thank you for that information, John. And let's talk a little bit about some of the department's initiatives and some of the things you're working on since you became chief. And I'll, if you want to chime in, Mike, well, you're certainly welcome to. And anything you want to tell us about that?
Well, I was very lucky when I came in. With the support of the mayor, and former Mayor Scanlon, and certainly currently Mayor Cahill, and the City Council. We were able to look at the budget and decide that the department needed an increase in manpower. Over the past 20 years, there's been about 20 offices reduced in the budget. We were able to bring the staffing back up a little this year. And by doing that, it's putting officers directly into the community. Currently, we have 2 offices assigned to what's called a community impact unit. They're dealing with situations they can spend more time on. Unfortunately, in law enforcement, a lot of time we're reactive. Well, they're out there trying to be more proactive. They get a letter, we get an email, we get a phone call. They can handle neighbor disputes. They can spend an hour or two looking into those problems, dealing with people, instead of having to go call to call and rushing through as a stopgap measure. They can spend more time handling these ongoing incidents. Also, just the visibility in the community. They're out on bicycles, they're out walking. The city councils know they can contact them when special events are coming up, and they can kind of make an appearance at special events just to try to be more visible to the community. And again, like I said, the idea is to be more reactive to what's going on and not, I should say, proactive and not just reactive to incidences.
Yeah, and this is called the Community Impact Unit. And is this something new in the city, or is this you just putting a little more muscle meat behind it?
It's another term on the old community policing.
Right.
But we were able to, again, move some people around this summer and dedicate 2 offices directly to that. And then our other focus is traffic enforcement. We felt that the city has increased traffic, there's increased businesses coming in. There's always a concern, especially downtown, with pedestrian safety, that we've done a revamp of the traffic unit. And as time goes on and now our new offices are becoming trained, there is going to be some downtime because we have academies that the newer offices have to go to. But once we get to full staff and full implement, the idea would be to have offices on both the day shift and evening shift doing both community relations, community impact, and traffic enforcement. So there'll be people out there all the time fulfilling these functions.
Right. Now, you mentioned the staffing levels and so forth, and you just mentioned full staffing. Where are you in relation to where you want to be in terms of number of people? Are you going to build up to that over the next few years, or how is that going to work?
Well, I mean, right now we're budgetarily we're allowed to be. So we're fully staffed. We've hired a new patrolman. We hired 2 new patrolmen again this month in August, or I should say just last month in August. So we're fully staffed where the budget is now. We'll look at things year to year. If there's money there through either city funds or state funds, and we can find that we need an increase in staff, again, I'll go to the mayor and the council, and we'll decide if we need more, or do we need to reallocate and move people from one spot to another? Do we need to have a dedicated another dedicated school resource officer? Do we need to have another dedicated detective? Those are the things we'll talk about in the future.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you, John. And now we'll turn to His Honor, Mike, of course, schools opened just this week, and maybe we can talk a little bit about different things in the school system. Did we get a good start to the school year? Everything okay? Everything under control?
I think so. Let me just first say, Chief Ladasher is doing a tremendous job, and the police department as a whole is doing outstanding work. And as he talked about, we were able, in this current budget, the budget year that just started in July, we were able to increase the manpower of the department by 3 full-time positions. Mm-hmm. And that's a challenge in this this economic cycle, but it's critically important. It's critically important to our people's sense of safety in their homes and in their neighborhoods, and very important to our ability to grow economically in our downtown and other places. And the chief, as I said, is doing a tremendous job. As far as the schools, I think we've had a great start. Today's the third day of the school year now. I was able to, yes, knock on that wood. Now, I was able to meet with the new teachers last week at their orientation, and also with new teachers and all returning teachers and other staff this Tuesday. And there's a lot of excitement. It's an exciting time educationally in Beverly. We have me, a new mayor, a new superintendent of schools,
right,
a new assistant superintendent, 3 new elementary school principals. So a lot of new talent to go along with a lot of returning veteran talent and mentoring opportunities. But we're in a great place, and we've been able, in this current school year, we're able to make some significant investments in technology at the middle and elementary school levels.
Right.
And that's very needed. We're moving ahead with our new middle school project. Now, I say it and I'll keep saying it, and people have to understand it's 4 years away. So, as we opened this school year, this week, it's the first of 4 more school years where we will have our middle schoolers at the, in the Briscoe Middle School building, and where our elementary schools will include 5th graders. Mm-hmm. When we open the new middle school in the fall of 2018, we'll move the 5th graders into the middle school. We'll have a 5 to 8 middle school,
right,
and that will help our elementary schools, which will then reconfigure as K to
right,
4, because they're very much stressed for space right now. And it's a challenge for all of us for the next 4 years, but there's great learning going on. There's great instruction and learning going on, a lot of innovation, a lot of very talented, very committed professionals, and great kids and great families involved in our schools.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit more about, we're talking about the Memorial Building, of course, which was a middle school. Now it's an all-purpose kind of a municipal building. So kind of lead us through that. You mentioned 4 more years. Kind of what has to happen in the next those years for that to happen in that time frame?
When I first took office back in January, I met with the Mass School Building Authority leadership about 2 weeks in, and they told me flat out that we would need 4 more years to open a school. There had been an effort to try to get it done by September of 2017, but they said absolutely it couldn't be done that quickly. Well, we pushed back and said, how quickly can it be done? And they sent us to some other districts that had done a great job of setting and meeting and even exceeding timelines. And we met with leadership in those other school districts. We sat down and very tactically looked at the calendar, all the phases of a building project that you have to go through. And we've set a very aggressive timeline to have our school built by mid to late spring of 2018, with a plan to move our middle school staff in right at the end of that school year so that they can open effectively in that September of the following year. So it'd be September of 2018. This summer we worked, and we were able to, I mean, it's been a sprint really from the day I took office, and I think it'll continue to be, pushing as hard as we can on every timeline, while at the same time doing all our due diligence to make sure that we build the right size school, that the educational plan and program is all that our kids need it to be, and we build the space that will support that educational program. So this past spring and summer, we worked to hire the owner's project manager, which is the firm that really moves you through the project from start to finish. And then we just last week hired the design firm, the architecture design firm, that will help us first, over the next year, do the feasibility study. We need to determine where to build the school. We believe strongly it should be at the Memorial campus, but we have to satisfy the state that that's the right place to build it as opposed to at Briscoe. And then we also have to determine whether we're going to do a renovation addition type of project or a tear down and entirely new construction project. So those are the next steps. And we kicked off that phase of the project this morning by having the school building officials out from the state, along with our new design team and our owner's project manager. And we spent about 4 hours today in Briscoe, in Memorial, meeting with them, looking over the timelines, looking at some of the benchmarks for how we'll make the decisions. We are convinced that that the Memorial campus is the right place. We'll be looking to, as I said, satisfy all the answering all the questions that the state has to kind of get them agreeing with us on that point. And I think, looking through the facilities and the campuses, they can, I think at a gut level, they understand what we're trying to do. The Briscoe campus is 6 acres. The Memorial campus is 17. There's an advantage there, both for designing and building a new building, and also necessary outdoor active space for the kids, and also the ability to move traffic through on a daily basis when school's in session.
I was kind of surprised when you mentioned that if you look at all the possibilities, that rehabbing Briscoe, if I can say that, is still one of the options. But I thought I understood that building was so old and so much falling apart that it really, the expense involved.
Well, I'll say it's not falling apart. We have kids in there and teachers in there. It's not falling apart. And it's been an incredible resource to our community for almost 100 years. But it is almost 100 years old. We have collectively as a community, our school and city leadership have over the last several years determined that it's not sufficient for what our kids are going to need going forward. I believe that the MSBA officials will agree with that assessment as we collectively, now that they're on board with the project and they're planning to fund somewhere in the order of 55% of the cost, we have to bring them along to where we already are. So, they have a they have a set of rules and guidelines by which we have to make that evaluation. And so we're starting that process, as I said just today, by kicking off the feasibility study.
Good. Well, thank you for bringing us up to date on that, Mike. Now, as long as we're talking about old school buildings, the city has been trying to negotiate with a new buyer for the McKay School. I think we've gone through at least 3 rounds. Tell us, I know you've the city's recently gotten some bids on a new RFP. Tell us where we stand right now with the McKay School, Mike.
Sure. The McKay School has been put out to bid for sale 4 different times over the last, say, 10 years. We put it out for bid at the beginning of the summer. Now, it had been put out for bid by former Mayor Scanlon, just before his term ended. So we received those bids back in February. Unfortunately, there was nothing. There were 3 bids. None of them were really appropriate in terms of the city's needs and a scale that can fit the neighborhood as well. So we rewrote the RFP. We put it back out. We had 4 submissions. All 4 had some merit. We've been able to narrow it down to 2. We're working diligently to try to finalize which of the bids we are going to award, and our goal is to award it in the next couple of weeks, and see that property put to good use in the near future. Now, I can say that both of the bids that we're choosing between preserve the existing school building, which was a high value that we placed. There's the original school building, and then there's an addition that is the gymnasium. And both of the proposals we're looking at preserve the original building, which is the bulk of the building, and would tear down the gym, which is much newer and not as doesn't have that historical architectural aesthetic value. So both would preserve the main building. Beyond that, we're working on trying to determine which one is in the best interest of the city before we make a final decision.
Are there any of the proposals, did they include sort of like a begin and end date for what they had proposed, or not? Or is it too early to talk?
There are timelines for necessary permitting that they each laid out. I think our hope is that whichever one we choose, it'll be 12 to 24 months before, within a 12 to 24 month window, whatever is going to be developed there will be developed and will be functional.
And will be interesting. Well, let's kind of turn to another aspect of city development. The Brimble Avenue overpass project, which has certainly drawn a lot of community interest. Can you tell us where we are with that project?
Sure. Another one that's felt like a sprint from day one. I will say, as we'll talk briefly about Brimble and I think the 1A project as well. I just want to say we're also in the middle of our annual paving program.
Right.
It's a little frustrating that we could start paving roads back in April, but we really can't because we need to wait until the state tells us how much money we have to spend. Right. Every year we rely on that Chapter 90 money, which is essentially money that comes back from our gas taxes that we pay to the state and federal government come back our way. And so as a result, every community in the state is trying to do their paving at the same time from July on.
Sure.
So we're in the middle of trying to get things done. We've had some false starts where contractors who said they deliver didn't deliver. So we've had to kind of really work hard at it. And I will say that Mike Collins, our Commissioner of Public Services, always does, and on this point is doing a tremendous job of trying to manage all the work that we need to get done before I hate to say it, the snow flies. So we're in the middle of that program, and I just want to say, if anybody has any questions or if they have any suggestions, I don't say complaints, I say suggestions, please call my office. They can also go on the city website and get an update on where things are at with paving work. We're doing paving in all 6 wards. We're doing a lot of sidewalk work, road work, under the ground utility. We have the utility companies doing their work. We're doing a lot of upgrades with water main and sewer line work. So it's an active season. We'll be a better community for it. If people, as I said, if people have concerns, please call my office and we'll make sure that they can get through the construction work that's going on around them. Well,
as long as you mention that, I have to commend your administration for the fact that, and BevCam has covered these events, you have had public meetings on the 1A project, on the repaving and street conditioning project, on the waterfront development. So you've made every opportunity to make sure that the public and the citizens are aware of what's going on, and also soliciting their impact. And as I say, BevCam has been covering those, and will continue to cover those sorts of meetings that you have with the public.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. So Brimble Ave.
Yeah, Brimble Ave.
As you know, we have a $5 million MassWorks grant. That's from the state's Department of Housing and Economic Development. It's been awarded, but we can't get our hands on the money until the road is fully designed and approved. So we've been working with the Department of Transportation, the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, and the Office of Economic and Housing Development for these past months to try to get us to that point. We were in Boston earlier this week at DOT. I was on a conference call this morning with Environmental Affairs. Everything is moving, and the target is to have the road fully designed and permitted by sometime in October, to get us to where I can co-sign the letter with Secretary Bielecki at Housing and Economic Development, and they can release the $5 million to us.
The money will be ours then.
And the plan is that we'll go into the ground in construction first thing in the spring, soon as the weather allows. And that will be a new connector road between the Brimble Ave, the northbound Brimble Ave exit at Sawyer Road, up to Brimble Ave, within the same footprint as the current roadway. It'll have a roundabout at the bottom and at the top, and it'll improve the roadway from the overpass on Brimble Ave down to Herrick Street Extension, where we'll put in a signalized light at the Herrick Street Extension and Brimble intersection. And it'll also improve the roadway from the highway off-ramp beyond the new roundabout at Sawyer and a bit beyond that.
Now, let me ask you something, Mike. I've had a couple of people approach me and ask the question, while this construction is going on, will those ramps and those access roads be available, like with cones and things, or will they'll be not usable by the driving public?
I'm going to say, by and large, yes, they'll be available.
Yeah.
And we'll know when we hire our general contractor just how we're going to deal with all that.
Yeah.
May there be specific points where they've got to close the exit? If so, we'll try to do it off hours.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, we'll be able to keep a lane open at all times, and if it involves directing some traffic by the construction work, so be it.
Yeah, yeah. Now let's get over to the 1A reconstruction. How was that proceeding? Where are we with that, Mike?
We are working. Part of the reason we were at DOT the other day is we need to go out to bid, or they need to go out to bid. The Brimble Ave job is a job that will build, but as far as the connector road, the highway will then own the road. We'll be building a road on their property. This is a more traditional highway job where the state will be building the road and they'll own the road because, it's a state numbered route.
Route
1A from the Beverly Salem Bridge down Rantoul Street, and when it meets back up with Cabot at Gloucester Crossing, turning left and going to the railroad crossing by the Dairy Queen just before the Memorial Building. So the target all along has been to get this job out to bid this month before the end of the federal fiscal year, which ends September 30th. So that's where we're at. The plan is for the state to advertise the job on September 20th.
Okay.
And we were, again, we were just dealing with details the other day with them and trying to make sure everything was buttoned up the way it needs to be.
Okay. Well, we're kind of running out of time. And Mike,
I should say that project is meant to begin next spring as well, the Rantoul 1A project.
Okay. Okay. So any final comments that you want to leave with our viewers before we end this session of City Scene, Mike?
Chief?
One just last thing, I just want to thank the men and women of the police department. They're the ones that are actually doing the work. I may come here and be the figurehead and people, talk to me, but it's the men and women of the department that are doing the lion's share of the work for the city.
Well, that's a great comment, Chief. Thank you for that.
It is.
Yeah.
And, we're doing a lot of great things, I think, and it's an exciting time all the way around. It's a great time of year, so please get out and enjoy it. We're doing the very best we can to keep improving our infrastructure and keep our roads and neighborhoods safe. And so let's all enjoy this incredible time of year.
Yeah, the Beverly Panthers are playing their first game of the year tomorrow.
They are. Soccer teams are both 1-0. Football team kicks off tomorrow.
That's right. And I know you're a big sports fan yourself, Mike. Well, Mike Cahill, Mayor of Beverly, thank you very much. John Latcher, our new police chief, thank you very much for joining us. And I'd like to just remind our viewers that you have been watching City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. Thank you for joining us.